Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here with us today, and I'm really excited to be presenting on our motivation topic. I don't know about you all, but we're about 4 weeks into all of this working remotely, and so it has certainly changed the way in which we operate, and I think that, as you all can probably relate, changed how you have as well. So as I kind of transition here, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. But I want to just tell you a little bit about myself. Again, my name's Brianna Larimer. I work with Missouri Training Institute. I have been there, oh goodness, just over a year now, and I feel incredibly fortunate to be a part of such a small but mighty, mighty team. And so if you aren't familiar with who we are, I just want to show you a few pictures of us. So our director featured there on your left part of the screen, that's Dewey Thompson. And Dewey has been doing this for over 20 years. Of course, Ray, you met her at the beginning. She's been here for over 10 years. And so I was the newest acquisition. And it's been a pleasure to serve on this team. So a little bit about what we do. We mentioned it here in the bullet points, but what really sets us apart from a lot of training companies is we work to really customize your training experience. And so if you work for an organization and you're looking for something specific related to goals of strategic planning and goals of your organization, we can work to custom build a training program for your team. So it's a really neat opportunity for us. We love what we do every day. We offer things like consulting services, executive coaching. All of us are certified in certain in strengths and in EQI, and so we are well equipped, and we would love to work with you and your organization. As I mentioned, I've been there just about a year. My background is actually in broadcast journalism. So I came to Columbia, Missouri, working at the Networks of Mid-Missouri, and worked there for a few years before I decided it was time to transition and to try and pour back into people. So I've been blessed with this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to spending the next hour with you. So I want to show you real quick, let's see if this will show up, and if you guys can comment in the chat section. I wanted to give you your poll results that we had you do at the very beginning here. Oh, it might not let me share. Let me just say, a lot of you were actually sitting right where all of us are probably sitting right now, somewhere in the middle. All right, somewhere in the middle. There was a high percentage of people that were falling there when it comes to kind of how you're feeling today. If you're feeling productive or unproductive, and let me say that makes sense, right? Like I said, mentioned at the beginning, if you're like us, we've gone on 4 weeks now of working remotely, so it does get difficult to stay motivated during this time. So I just want to encourage you over this next hour. We are all in this together, and I'm excited to share. We had about over 250 people register for this, so I hope everyone can join us today, and I'm really looking forward to kind of where we're heading. As Ray mentioned at the beginning, we do have some upcoming other topic Tuesdays. The one on April 28th, Resiliency in the Face of Setbacks, that's going to be the one that you can actually register for at the very end of this session. So you can go ahead and scan that QR code and you'll be able to register from there. The other one, that is a free session. The other one that I'm really looking forward to is going to be our tapping into your emotional intelligence during tough times. This has weighed heavy on all of us. The COVID-19 experience in itself has weighed heavy on all of us. And so what we're really looking forward to with this EQ session is helping people dive into their specific areas. Where are they right now? Where are you? When it comes to things like interpersonal relationships, when it comes to your flexibility or your independence, because that's really, we've been called to that a lot with all of this new norm, this working remotely. So it's an exciting opportunity. There is a cost associated to that particular workshop, but I'd like to point out that it is a 3-part series. So you're getting 3 one-hour webinars plus the full assessment. So if that's something you're interested in, you can register on our website as well. So let's dive into this. This is really what we're here for today. I want to know from you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ray for just a second. We're going to ask that while you respond, we know everyone is muted right now. You'll have to remain muted just because we have so many people on the call. But I want to know what has helped you stay on task at the office that you're missing at home. All right, what are some of those things? So if you can respond to the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and open it back up to Ray here.
All right, our first one's come in from Meredith and just saying routines.
Mm.
A little bit of focus. Probably that daily to-do list we're missing. Thanks. Definitely. Mary's missing her coworkers, and I know we've had that conversation as well. The schedule, people is coming up a lot. So David, Sherry, both are missing their peeps at work. Accountability. And so we're going to actually have a session on accountability coming up. She's new at her job, so getting that coaching and getting that routine down. So it seems like, Brianna, we've got a lot of people that are missing people. A lot of people that are missing the routine. We have some people that are missing their printer as well as their copier. And of course, you know, the to-do list, but also no kids in the office. And so that's just one of those heavy distractions that's very important that we take care of. The commute. So interesting to note, and Brianna will address that a little bit today, the idea of the commute. Routine, again, we've got another one from Mel that says printer and scanner capabilities. And of course, many, many, many people are saying, I miss my coworkers.
Mm. Oh, thank you, Ray. Thank you for that. Holy moly, can I relate to a lot of those responses, especially the coworkers part. As I showed you in that slide, you know, MTI is a small, but we are a well-connected team, and so it certainly it does affect your motivation throughout the day. And so thank you guys for all of those great responses. We're going to tap into this a little bit, and you know, when I started thinking about this whole concept of what we're missing, there's really three pieces that I kind of heard too in this chat, but three pieces that I also processed through, and a lot of research suggested we miss that we don't get at home, right? And the first one is going to be that regimented schedule. It is the getting up in the morning, the conditioning of the brain to get ready for work and to take that drive into work. Maybe some of you have a longer drive, and so that's your time to decompress, especially if you have kids. So we have a regimented schedule. We work from usually 8 to 5. And so we miss that when we work from home, and it really throws off our ability to balance work and life. I think the other one, as we touched on, was that interaction with your colleagues. For some of us, that might be the only interaction we're getting with people for the day. You come home, you have family to take care of, you have your kids to take care of, and so you really count on that time away from home where you can socialize with your colleagues. And so I understand that that is something that is very difficult, and we will address it a little bit more as we talk about this concept of motivation. And the last piece I heard it mentioned was the accountability piece. Right? If you have a physically present boss, then chances are you hold yourself a little bit more accountable because you have no idea when that boss is going to check in with you. And so when we're missing those three pieces, right? When we are feel out of control because we can't control those three pieces, it's really going to be up to us now to figure out how can we ensure we are keeping a regimented schedule, that we are keeping the social interaction with other people, that we are holding our own selves accountable. And that's where this big concept of motivation comes in. So let's define this for a minute. What is motivation? Okay, and you're probably going, oh, Brianna, we know what motivation is. But understand, I really like this definition of it. Motivation is what activates us. It directs us. It sustains us, right? It's kind of our guiding principles for any goal-directed behaviors. And so when we think about motivation, we have to understand that this is the reason we do what we do. It's the whys of our behavior. And oftentimes we don't see a motivation, right? We just infer that one exists because of a behavior that we've seen. And so when we think back, this time will really challenge us to say, have we defined goals that we want to work towards while working remotely? And if so, are those goals in alignment with the things that we really find value in? And so that will help us as we kind of guide through this conversation. I want to pause for a second, though, because I want us to understand a really big concept here. And if you're familiar, this is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this is a theory that is a motivation theory that suggests that this is kind of the pyramid, right? The hierarchy that we all live by in order to motivate us as individuals. And so as you can see down at the bottom, we have certain needs, basic needs, right? We have the physiological needs and our safety needs. And if those items aren't met, then we're not going to be able to get past those basic needs to move into the psychological needs. And some of us may be struggling right here because maybe you've lost your job, right? Maybe you're on furlough. Maybe there's concerns of layoffs or furloughs. And so you start wondering, how am I going to put food on the table for my family? How am I going to ensure that they feel safe and secure amid this coronavirus outbreak? And so we need to be addressing those things. So I guess what I'm suggesting is we have to give ourselves a break. All right, we have to give ourselves a break and understand that if we haven't thought about these items, these basic needs, let's take a pause, let's think about them and figure out how can we take control or address those basic needs first. A lot of us, though, I think we're feeling the psychological needs section, right? Our next level of the pyramid here, the belongingness, right? Love needs. We need those friends. We need those relationships, the interpersonal relationships. In some ways, we need to be able to, we feed off of other people's energy to feel a sense of accomplishment. So how are we doing that when we're just sitting at home? And I think it's important for us, again, to pause, give ourselves a break, and to understand, where am I at on here? What are needs that I have that aren't being met at this time? And process it, right? And then maybe we start making a plan from here. So understand that when it comes to your motivation, you will be more motivated when the items feel personally relevant, right? And as we go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's relevant, right? If you've lost your job, if you're concerned about putting food on the table, if you have a sense of belonging and you're needing those intimate relationships and you aren't getting them, right? That's relevant to you. And so understand you may be more motivated in those areas to address those areas before we can then continue to move on to that final piece of the pyramid, which was the self-actualization. And so I challenge you to think about things as you're making your goals, as you're planning. Consider, what is it in this that is relevant to me? And so a good example that I can relate to is when it came to MTI. We have a certain way of offering trainings traditionally. We had day-long trainings, so 6-hour trainings. We have half-day sessions. We love in-person trainings. It's really where we flourish. And so the opportunity to do activities and to do all of those hands-on experiences. So when we got told, hey, you're working remotely and everything has to be canceled, man, did we lose some motivation for, about a minute. Our team is usually really good at adapting. And so at that moment was the moment we started realizing our goals as an organization are coming to fruition here. We need to be able to say, how will we remain relevant as an organization? And what can we do to make it personal to us? So for me, man, I love the adventure of learning and technology. So immediately, I'm getting online. I'm trying to figure out, how are people offering webinars? What are some platforms? What are some activities that we can do in these social settings virtually? And so make it relevant to you. Maybe if you're a competitive person, you take something and you make it a competition, right? How quickly can you get that project done today? And so find ways that work for you to make it relevant to you. My focus is to always want to shine a light into other people's lives too, and to influence other people's success. That's what kept me going on this whole mission. That's why we didn't stop when we were consumed by this, oh man, we can't do in-person trainings anymore. So make it personally relevant and take ownership of it. All right, when you have an opportunity to take ownership, that autonomy that you have from those projects, and we have a whole bunch of it right now. There should be an abundance of it right now because you don't have the boss maybe over your shoulder every day. But you have that opportunity to take ownership of kind of where you're at right now and what your goals are and how you're going to move forward. So here's the problem. All right, another problem. This is just human behavior. A lot of times we just start, if you're like me, it starts processing everywhere, right? I want to do this and I want to try that and I want to do this new thing. And oh, this is a great opportunity to read those 10 books that I had stacked in my office. What is the most important thing for you to do right now? And we teach a lot about this in our time management session, because understand what we're going to tend to run into is the urgency of things, right? So the email comes in, I got to respond to that email. It came from so-and-so. Or I got to get that project done because it's the quickest I can get done. And so it may not actually be important stuff, but it's things that have a sense of urgency, or that other people maybe have given you a sense of urgency to work on. So it's going to be your job to stop and to really process what is the most important thing for you to do right now. And you got to do this every day. You cannot treat everything as important, because not everything is, right? If you have to go back to that model, there's a model out there, and it is the time management model. It's talking about importance and urgency. What are things you can put in quadrant 1? What are things you can put in quadrant 2? Stephen Covey, it's actually from his book, so if you're interested, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so take an opportunity, maybe read that, jot down, what would you place in your important and urgent quadrants? What is urgent but not important? All right, take time to really comprehend that not everything can be important. I think it's going to be important for us to really look at that with a very fine scope, because if we don't, that overwhelming feeling of all these things to do will really impede on our motivation. So I want to know from you, what might this temporary work situation be an opportunity to do? What have you already started doing? So I'm going to encourage you, go ahead and respond in those chat messages, and I'm going to pause for a second and turn it back over to Ray.
Wonderful. Well, we'll wait while things are coming in. We've got professional development, completing those back burner items. I love that. Even some personal things like starting a garden, getting caught up on tasks that we were behind on, documentation, never seem to have time to do that in the office, catching up on emails. I love it. Full workouts at lunch. Nice. Don't have to worry about going back to work all sweaty. I've been organizing my digital files. Lots of people are doing things not only professionally, but personally, with exercise and gardening and organizing at home. I love it. Becoming more aware of the ways to interact and seeing those. We've got some family in here, spending time with the kids, working out, looking farther ahead than normal. So sometimes, you know, we might be able to kind of take a breath during this time. Getting caught up, cooking. I love that. You got a 24/7 kitchen at your disposal. And some self-care, such as working out. DIY masks for my family, so making those. That's great. Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate the found time that this person used from commuting now to maybe some more personal time. So they've kind of caught some of that extra. We're doing some personal things for others, making scrub hats. Thanks, Cynthia, for EMT workers. Housework on lunch. So it's easy maybe to keep up a little bit more with those kinds of things. And Jane says, you know what, I'm reflecting. I'm using this time for more reflection.
Perfect. Thank you, Ray, and thank you all for those wonderful responses. Please feel free, even though we're going to move on, if you have other thoughts, share those. Everyone can see those, and we can certainly come back to some of those ideas as well later. This opportunity is profound. Like I can't think of a more perfect opportunity to do all of those things in which you all had already laid out. And I really think that professionally, when it comes to looking at our goals and kind of where can we go and how can we continue to keep ourselves motivated and related to work, there's a lot of opportunity here, right? A lot of opportunity here. I'm going to run through a few of these, but I'm going to challenge you. And I've heard some of it throughout those chats. Think ahead, right? You have an opportunity right now to get out of this whirlwind, right? The whirlwind that we are caught in daily, where it's just our to-do list, we're checking things off because we can't seem to get any time to do anything else. We have that time now. And so if you're a manager, perfect opportunity for strategic planning. Maybe there are certain policies that you've wanted to implement and you weren't sure, how to write the policies or how to move forward with it. Do you have the time? So let's think ahead. What are some big picture items that we're able to really focus on as we move forward? And if you are a frontline employee, taking the time to pause and say, what are some things that are in alignment with my organization's mission, vision, and values that I can particularly work on? What are some things that would align us well? So for example, within MTI, because we don't really know, when this situation will come to pass, this has given us the perfect opportunity. And I'll say myself independently of this, because Canvas, right? This was a platform that we had never dove into at MTI. We were all used to our in-person trainings, but now we're looking at opportunities to provide fully online training programs using Canvas. This was something we thought ahead about. It was in our strategic plan, and now I'm finally getting the time to sit down and to write those little steps to get us along the way to working and through the Canvas platform. We have time to think back, right? I loved it when I heard I'm spending time in reflection. I think that is incredible. I think that right now that quiet time is the perfect opportunity to do so. Now, if you have small kids at home, maybe you're not getting as much quiet time. But when we reflect back, let's ask ourselves the questions. What worked? What didn't work? Maybe you think about an individual project. Maybe you think about just an overarching project that your organization or your department had done. What was it about it that worked and what didn't, and how can we improve? Understand, and I want to make this clarification between the two, that don't spend a lot of time in the rearview mirror. Okay, we want to spend time really focused on that windshield, right? Our looking ahead. And so although I do believe it's important to think back and to look in the rearview mirror, that's how we learn and we grow. Don't spend a lot of time or spend all of your time caught up in that area. I'm going to challenge us to think deep. Okay, when we talk about thinking deep, I mean looking deep into processes that, again, maybe we hadn't had the time to do before. Data entry. Whew. I'm sure that's a pain for a lot of people. Well, now we got the opportunity to get caught up on it. Maybe your inbox really could use some spring cleaning. So take some time to pause and to go through and spring clean all of your emails, organizing them to what suits you best. So that way, when we transition back into the office, you're well organized. All right, so what are some of those kind of deeper processes that we just haven't really wanted to dive in on yet? I'm also going to say that maybe it's time right now to think across. And so one of the things, extension, which MTI is part of MU Extension, one of the things that we are about is really focusing on the needs of the residents of Missouri. And so we work with other organizations and we try to determine how can we best help each other. That's what I'm going to ask when we think about this thinking across. How can we help other departments? Maybe you're a technical expert in something in your Zoom sessions, or maybe there's a certain platform that you've utilized in your own Zoom sessions that have been fun or interactive that you could then share to other people. Maybe you have an opportunity to reach out to organizations or departments or people that work in similar roles as you, and you can gather information from them. What's working for them? All right, this is an opportunity to think across and to help each other out. All right, I think we really are hearing a lot right now, a lot of marketing on we're in this together, right? We're in this together, and we are. And I think that it's an opportunity to take advantage of some of that working together and utilizing each other's brains. So are you thinking growth, right? Clearly you all are. You're in this session right now. So professional development, this is a perfect time for that. Bigger than that, what are some other things that you might have been interested in? There's massive open online courses now. Things that maybe aren't for credit, but would give you an opportunity to touch your toe a little bit into some of the things that you might be interested outside of just this area of expertise. There's TED Talks out there. There's a million things on YouTube. So what is it that you're using? Talk about podcasts too. Those have grown substantially. What is it that you're utilizing to really grow as an individual? Because those skills, when you come back to the workplace, really could do a lot to potentially advance your career. And so right now is the perfect time to be looking at those. Of course, we got to be thinking well-being. All right, when we think about well-being, I don't mean just our personal our personal well-being, I mean the well-being of others too, right? Are we taking time to check in on each other? And let me just go ahead and pause for a minute and really thank Ray and Dewey, because they have been incredible in doing this. And I know at every Zoom session we start out with, they ask, hey, how you doing, Brianna? Because let me just say, I am a very sensitive person. I'll own that. Lots of empathy. And so I struggle mentally through some of this isolation. I'm not used to it. And so I wonder if maybe some of you out there can relate to that. But just taking the time to check in on each other, right? My mom mentioned to me the other day, she called relatives that she hasn't talked to in years just to see how they're doing. All right, and this is the perfect opportunity to think well-being for each other as well. I really want us to think now. All right, what is it that we can also do right now that maybe we've never had the opportunity to do that could be relevant to what people need? So these webinars, for example, we decided that these webinars would all be free because they're COVID-19 related. That's relevant right now. Maybe there's a blog you've wanted to start that could provide people up-to-date information on how your organization is impacted by COVID-19, or tips, tricks, and tools. Those are things you can do now. Maybe marketing, all right, learning your marketing tools for your organization so that you can then start diving in, creating announcements, sending out emailers, things like that that are now, that are relevant to people now. So lots of great opportunities here. Lots of things that, again, bear in mind, as much as we have all the opportunities, we also need to narrow it down. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later too. So not everything can be important. Focus on the things that are most important. You got to create those goals. You got to create them. As we mentioned at the very beginning, motivation, right? Activate, directs, and sustains goal-related behavior. So if you have no goals, then how in the world are you expecting yourself to have any motivation towards those goals? So take some time, write those goals down, and don't make them extensive. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my mentors had actually asked me when we first started to write down 100 goals for the next 5 years. And my eyes went, what? I can't even think past tomorrow most days. And so it was a challenge. And it was something I actually kind of fought her on a little bit when it came to it, because I didn't understand, how can I realistically complete 100 goals over the next 5 years? But it was the process that actually counted. So after you create your 100 goals, we narrowed it down, and it helped gain focus to where by the end of it, I had 10 goals for the next year that I was scheduled to complete. And half of them were personal, half of them were professional. So it was a whole process on narrowing those goals down after I'd come up with all 100. And let me tell you, the focus that provided over, it's been this last year, has been substantial. And it was something that I don't think I ever would have been motivated to complete if I otherwise hadn't been told to do it. So create your goals, all right? Before we move into this next piece, all right, we talked about this motivation concept. We're going to talk about the self-discipline piece when it comes to motivation as well. I want to just ask Ray, do we have any questions or any comments that have come in?
We have some things coming on board about resources. And so there was a little bit of a chat going on, like what recommended podcasts or TED Talks are people working on right now? So we've had some suggestions out there, and I would encourage those of you that have tuned into a podcast or find a favorite author or expert, definitely use the chat to make those recommendations and those suggestions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, we're in this together. That's the great opportunity too, with almost 200 people on the call. So share those things, please. I love what Ray had done. She had found some podcasts. I've never been one into podcasts, but she had shared with us ones on leadership that she had really enjoyed. And then she was looking into Brene Brown, who is very popular right now as well. And so talking about the courage to lead. So there's opportunities out there, especially right now. A lot of these names, so for example, I think of Dave Ramsey as well. A lot of these people that are kind of self-help guides, they are offering their services free cost right now. So it's ample opportunities to take advantage of some of those things that you may have had to pay for before that now you wouldn't have to. So share those please in the chat. Let's use each other as resources. So thank you. All right, I'm gonna breathe for a minute because we're gonna step into the self-discipline piece, and a lot of you are gonna be like, oh great, self-discipline, exactly what I need, right? It comes with a negative connotation, but let me tell you that there is a lot of great opportunities that come with disciplining ourselves. So here's where we're kind of headed, all right? I wanna just show you real quick, we're gonna break these out in the following slides, but it's important that we're creating a dedicated workspace, all right? You got to have the go-to space every day that you are going to work in. That's work. This is home, you know, and it becomes a little bit, you cross those lines because we're all stuck at home. We're going to talk about setting dedicated work hours. We're going to talk about getting dressed, taking breaks. And then at the end, we're going to really talk about focusing on the top 3. So we've created our goals. How do we narrow it down? And then what do we determine is important to focus on each day? So creating a dedicated workspace. All right, let me tell you, the cool part about this is your workspace really can be your own. So if you're like me and you like a lot of colors or you like a lot of just homey kind of feeling things, perfect opportunity. Maybe you like to sit on a yoga ball during the day, right? Whatever works for you, make it your space. And it's really going to help keep you organized. So whereas before you had everything that you needed right there, you may not have it all right there anymore. My stuff sits on a chair in my dining room. And so it doesn't look as nice and it's not where I expected it to be, but just having it, because my place every morning that I go to is my dining room table. Just having that dedicated space, I know when I sit down at that table every morning, it's work time, right? I got my game face on. And so understand that it's really going to help you create those boundaries around your work and your personal lives. So maybe you have young kids and your young kids are gonna see you still at home, but if you're in a certain place that you've dedicated as mommy or daddy's workspace, then it might help them you know, set that boundary with them that this is not time for play, this is mom and dad are at work. I want to know from you guys, where's some of the most creative places you've worked from? And so as those chats come in, I'm going to just tell you quickly, I had to laugh. My husband, his colleague who actually works in Rhode Island, had to set up her radio studio, because they work in radio, had to set it up in a closet. And at first, I thought, man, that stinks. It seems like it'd be such a tight space and uncomfortable and claustrophobic. But for her, it works out great because she lives in a small apartment. And in that small apartment, she's not really able to separate work and home. But putting it in her closet, she now has the opportunity to shut the door at the end of the day. She can shut the door, close it, work is done. So that's another kind of mental piece to really creating a certain space that's for work and then the rest of your space being from home. So Ray, what do we have coming in?
Yeah, everything from the porch to the kitchen to the car.
Oh,
so I said they were working from their car, but I'm seeing porch and deck, of course, when it's not threatening snow or anything. Catherine says she's working from the barn. You know, honestly, if I had a barn, I would definitely be there too. Sitting outside so that the kiddos can play and have their time. Somebody's got a card table in their living room, or I'm seeing shared space with spouses or significant others. Right now, some people are working in their kitchen and currently, and that's nice. You got a big countertop space sometimes to spread out on. Somebody, the spare basement bedroom, and using a card table. Definitely we've got space in the dining room. So a lot of outdoor space when the weather has been nice, but mostly rooms within the house.
Excellent. Thank you all for those ideas. Yeah, again, we're going to utilize each other. I won't fib here. Although I have my dedicated space, sometimes for these webinars, or sometimes just to give me a different look of scenery, I move around. All right, so I know I still have my dedicated space, but if I need some time outside, absolutely take it outside, right? So maybe find some remote places outside of just your normal space every now and then, right? I'm not suggesting we do that regularly because it doesn't create the habit in our mind, but we want to at least take time to breathe as well. The other piece I'll touch on with this, when you're creating this dedicated workspace, don't put it right next to your bed, or don't make it your bed. All right, because the problem becomes then that our brains associate bedtime, right, laying in bed or being close to the bed, as time for rest. It's just how we are conditioned. There's a cognitive element to it. So if we are in that same room, how easy would it be just to say, oh, I'm going to take just a quick nap, just a quick nap, right? And then we lose all productivity for the rest of the day. So be careful. Creating those spaces relevant to where you would rest throughout the night. So great thoughts, though. Great ideas here. So now the work hours. All right, and I'm really curious. If you guys feel free to share in your chat. It's not a question on here, but how have you determined your work hours? I hope that if you are working different hours than what you normally would, did you set those expectations with your boss? Right, that would be the expectation that we would all have. And if you were in Ray's session last couple weeks ago, that was part of what we talked to our managers about, was helping them understand we have to set expectations here. What's going to work for one employee isn't going to work for all the others, right? Some people have children at home, some people don't. Some people are morning people, some people aren't, right? Our night owls right now might be loving this working remotely, because you can turn on at 8 o'clock at night, be on, till midnight or beyond. It's what works for you. But understand that regardless of what your hours are, I think it's still important to wake up early. And part of that is because if this is your normal routine, right? If you would normally have worked like an 8 to 5 shift, then your brain is already set to get up early and to keep into a routine that you've had for however many years you've been working, right? And part of that was waking up early. So we want to try and control or discipline ourselves as much as we can with what our routine normally would be. And part of that may be waking up early. So let me just say, I am not a morning person, and Ray and Dewey know this. I'm actually the last one to come into the office every day. But despite this, I have still set my alarm every morning to get up and to make sure that by 7:30 I am at my table and I am sending my team a good morning message, because that's traditionally what I would have done in the office. Being the last one that comes in, I would wave to everyone in the morning, good morning, and that's what I want to keep in the habit of doing. We have to be able to manage the time, whatever it's going to be. All right, so if you are working a 4-hour shift, taking a break because you have to put the kiddos down for a nap, or I guess at one point we were homeschooling, and then you need to come back and work the rest of your 4 hours, right? As long as you set those expectations with your supervisor, you get to manage your own time. You got to consider, though, when are you most productive? So how are you planning your day around when you're most productive? So for me, because I know I prefer afternoons, I will schedule all of my Zoom meetings typically for the afternoon. However, when I'm in webinars, my brain actually is more active because I just probably had 3 cups of coffee. So I will do my webinars just for energy's sake, right, first thing in the morning. So when are you most productive? How are you chunking your time that way? All right, because you get an opportunity to do that. And here's the thing is, if there's certain times that work best for you, so for example, you can't do webinars from the 2 to 3 o'clock hour because that's nap time for the kids. Communicate it. All right, that's all we need to do, is be able to communicate with our supervisor, with our team, what are the hours that you are working and when you will be available for certain activities if it requires your presence. You have to be able to estimate how long our task's going to take you to accomplish that. You may be doing things a little bit differently. A lot of people have mentioned that it's difficult to not have 2 screens, right? And so maybe you're not as productive because you don't have 2 computer screens. And so maybe it's going to take you a little bit longer. I do some design work. So when I'm doing some design work for our marketing stuff, man, it takes longer. So estimate how long do we think it's going to take, and then record exactly how long it did take you to do it. So if it's a redundant task, something you'll have to do again next week, you can plan accordingly for how long it will take. One other thing that we're going to be prone to right now is what I'm going to call these time thieves. All right, and here's the thing, I get it, right? We all want to take a moment and binge watch the latest episode or the last season of Sons of Anarchy. All right, we can't do it. That's going to be a time thief, right? Maybe it is getting on the phone and making that phone call, but maybe it's with a relative that you know the phone call is not going to last 15 minutes. And so we need to be able to recognize what are our time thieves throughout the day. All right, what is it that is taking too long to do? And then start journaling. Like if you can't just individually identify them, I'm going to say just journal your day. All right, journal your day and figure out what is it that I'm doing 15-minute increments at a time. And then just seeing that image, that picture of what you're doing will help you identify where have been your time thieves throughout the day. A lot of us, especially because we're craving that social interaction right now, are going to get caught up on this little guy right here, right? Let's do Facebooking, right? Or Instagramming. I'm just going to scroll for 5 minutes. No, 5 minutes turns into an hour, let's be honest. All right, so recognize what are your time thieves, okay? And again, record it if you're not sure. Sit and write a journal. We got plenty of time to journal right now. Getting dressed. And I'm going to add in a little, in addition to this too, make your bed. Okay, so get dressed, make your bed. And part of this really just continues to go back to that cognitive element, right? The cognitive element of this is a routine, and my brain knows when I am in these clothes or when I get up in the morning and I've made my bed, it is not rest time anymore. It is time now to go to work. And so these are habits that have been well created beyond the last however many weeks you've been working remotely. These are things that have been established years and years and years, depending on how long you've been working. And so understand that just by keeping, again, that same routine, it will keep your brain in check that it's time to be productive right now. And specifically when we talk about this element of getting dressed, and there's actually people out there called fashion psychologists, they will tell you, research suggests that just getting dressed will allow you to have control over your mood for the day. So when we think about it, man, we all love those PJs, right? But when you're in your PJs, you're in relaxation mode. When I'm in my work attire, casual, business, business casual, then my brain says, man, I feel kind of good about myself, right? And so at that point, then I'm feeling a little bit more positive. I have a little bit more energy that runs through me, as opposed to being in my PJs where I'm just comfortable. So get dressed, helps you get your mindset set to the right day. It's going to improve your productivity. Your brain knows when you are wearing certain things, right, that is go time. All right, we have to stay in that mode. The moment that I come home from work, if we were in the office and I'd come home and I get dressed out into my nighttime clothes, my body recognizes it's time to rest. And so we need to be able to set the clear boundaries between work and rest. All right, and I think we can do so just by our attire. I'll add in there, I'm not suggesting, let me caveat here, I am not suggesting that we all start wearing suits and ties every day in our house, right, or high heels. I mean, if you're comfortable in it, please go for it. But what I am suggesting is that we need to dress up a little bit more than what our PJs are, in our PJs. We used to say dress for your day at MTI, okay? I think right now we really have to challenge ourselves to dress as if we were going to work every day. Because again, it's just going to condition our brains that it is time to work, and it helps with that motivation and it helps with that productivity. It also helps if your boss says 15 minutes before they want to have a meeting on Zoom, and so you're scrambling last minute to fix your hair or to put some actual clothes on. All right, you're not prepared. So we want to be prepared for anything that the day is going to bring. And that's what getting dressed is going to allow us to do. Similarly to what I mentioned earlier with your workspace, your dedicated workspace, this can also help with your young kids specifically, setting boundaries with moms at work or dads at work. And so them not coming and maybe bugging you as much as they normally would because you are dressed in a way tells their brain, mom and dad are in work mode. And so it will help set the boundaries then with your family too. So Ray, I want to pause real quick. I'm going to take a break. Do we have anything that's come in on chat or any questions, thoughts?
Yeah, we've got a lot of good just comments, just thinking about how people are using their time, what they consider to be an accomplishment for the day. So a lot of time management things. So people are responding back and forth about how they're thinking about time and thinking about management. And just want everybody to know, we still have the same amount of time we've always had. An hour is still 60 minutes and a minute is still 60 seconds. So we don't have less time, we have the same amount of time. What we need to be aware of is how we manage the time that we have. And so to Brianna's point about self-discipline, that's where it comes in. Time management isn't about managing the clock.
Right.
Time management is about managing ourselves within that clock. So really establishing and taking note of these tips and strategies, and then you've got to be disciplined, you've got to be diligent, you've got to be ruthless when you think about how you've determined that you're going to spend the next 20 minutes.
Right.
And we teach people how to treat us. So if it's not time to fix lunch yet, don't fix lunch. Wait until that timer goes off, or wait until you agreed 12:30 was the set time. So it really is about establishing those boundaries and sticking to it. And I'm seeing a lot of people talking about boundaries and setting those boundaries. But you have to stick to them. And if you don't stick to your own boundaries, how can we expect anybody else to as well? So I love the comments that are coming on, a lot of conversation among the participants. So keep it coming.
Excellent. Thank you, Ray. And thank you. Yes, I absolutely love that. I first learned that from Ray, was we teach other people how to treat us. And I have to laugh thinking about it. As I mentioned, my husband works in radio. So when we started working at home together, he likes a lot of that loud noise. He likes the radio going. He likes the TV going. Man, I don't. I can't handle it. So we have to set those boundaries and establish, okay, from this time to this time, we can listen to the radio and we can have the loud noises going. And then from this time to this time, I need my quiet time. So yeah, absolutely. And he's been excellent and really helping me through that as well, since I'm the quiet type. So great. Thank you guys for all the chats that are coming in too. That's incredible. So, all right. So talking about the taking breaks, I'm going to kind of speed up through this here. But understand that these are important pieces, right? I love that I heard some people saying that they use their break opportunities or they use their lunch hours for time to get physical activity right now. Research suggests, and let's own it, because we don't do this on a normal basis in our office, we should be taking 5 to 10 minutes every 60 to 90 minutes, or every hour to hour and a half, we should be taking a break. And again, we all get into the habit. Our team does it as well. We get to working on something and we just forget to get up. And next thing we know, it's an hour before we're scheduled to leave. So take the time now to establish that new habit of taking breaks, because then it'll be something that you can actually take back into the workplace. So 5 to 10 minutes every hour to hour and a half. Set a reminder if you need to. Set it on your phone. And then the other thing, because we can all get a little carried away with some time thieves, right? Let's set timers for those breaks, making sure that we are keeping ourselves on task. And then think about it. Again, can I use the stairs during this time? I have found some great workout videos on YouTube, that quick 20-minute workout videos. So I'll take 10 minutes to do the first half, take 10 minutes to do the second half. So I'll do that in between during my breaks that I've scheduled out. The other thing I love, make it a game. Ray and her significant other created this awesome game I'm going to share again, because I think it's so cool. Take a deck of cards, right? When you take a deck of cards and you write an exercise on it. So maybe for your ace of your ace of spades, it is, doing 5 jumping jacks. Then for your next card, it's something different. So then on your 5 to 10 minute breaks, take a card out, use it for physical activity time. All right. And then always you can go outside, right? When it's not too chilly. It's been a little chilly here in Columbia the last couple days though. So take the time for yourself. And the last part of this is really focusing on your top 3. So at the very beginning, I really told you all that it's important to create goals, right? To create plans to help you stay motivated, to help you stay on task. We need to narrow it down. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to focus every day. You should have at least 3 goals from your list for that day. And your goals are all going to vary. Nobody's going to have the same goals. So you need to figure out what are your 3 most important goals, most important projects, things that you need to complete for that day. And then you can incentivize yourself, right? When you are thinking about this, so if I get this project done, let me say, for example, writing a piece of curriculum. I am writing a new piece of curriculum. As soon as I get this done, I get to go and have me an ice cream, bowl of ice cream, right? Or I'm going to go and I'm going to take a walk outside, or I'm going to watch that one episode of Once Upon a Time, right? Whatever it is for you, you get to incentivize yourself. All right, you get to say, after I complete it, I can do this. And then again, following up with that reward system. Understand that the reward system cannot be binge watching the entire series. Okay, it has to be micro rewards. Make them small. All right, make them small to a point where you don't get lost and you lose your entire rest of the day. So focus on your top 3, incentivize, and use those micro rewards when you accomplish each of them. The cool part about it is right now you're not really set to just what you would normally have done in the office to reward yourself. So what I mean by that is when I completed curriculum in the office, I would go and take a walk around the building. That was my reward, right? To get out of the office. But now I am at my house. I get to do whatever I really want to do for my reward. If I want to play the guitar, I'll pull out the guitar, right? Whatever it is for you, you get to reward yourself how you see fit. And so take that as a benefit to this opportunity as well. So I want to ask this, and I'm going to go ahead and pose the question, and then we're going to come back to it. But I want to know, please share with us in your chats, what are some other ways that you've kept yourself disciplined while working from home during this time? All right, so go ahead and start sharing those ideas in your chat, and I'm going to run into this piece here. I want to just really kind of keep in perspective for us. If you're starting to lag, you're starting to feel unproductive, you're starting to get really tired maybe of the working from home, let's look at the bigger picture of this and the great opportunities that it has provided. Okay, we talked earlier about your office being any kind. You want it on a yoga ball, you make it on a yoga ball, right? You want it outside on your patio, you make it outside on your patio. You get to choose. You're not stuck in your cubicle, okay? So you have that opportunity. We're also saving money. At least I hope we are. All right, but when we think about it, there's no commute. So we're not spending gas money. I think I've spent a total of $20 in a month now on gas. And normally my truck would run about 60 to 75 a month. So saving money on that. We're probably saving money because we're not going out to eat as much. We're not having to go on our lunch break to Hardee's because it's the closest place to our building, right? You're having an opportunity to save up right now. You get to make your own schedule within those, expectations you've set with your supervisor. You're getting to make it your own. You're learning more and you're becoming more independent. So I think of an example from yesterday. I had a question about something with our marketing platform, and my initial instinct was to just send an email to Laura, who was in charge of all of our marketing stuff. And instead, I researched it and figured it out on my own. Right? We're getting that opportunity now to be more independent and to rely more on ourselves. Whereas before, we may have been inclined to just run to our supervisor's office because they were right down the hall. All right, we're getting an opportunity to have more efficient meetings. Let me be clear. All right, I don't care how many donuts and coffee you provide at a meeting. If you're sitting in a stuffy room for 3 hours with a guy that clicks his pen nonstop, that is not a productive meeting. And so now we're getting the opportunity to change the ways we have meetings. And so a lot of meetings from a lot of colleagues I've been hearing are shorter, right? It's not a 3-hour meeting. Maybe it is an hour-long meeting now via Zoom. So meetings are more efficient and we are keeping in touch more effectively. So when I come to Ray for something during that staff meeting time, or if we have any other individual production time, I have a whole list of things for her that I have questions about, as opposed to just coming to her for every individual item on that list. I have it all set out, I have it planned, and so our time together is now more effective because I'm not running in there every 15 to 20 minutes with something new. So there's a lot of benefits to this, So let's keep ourselves out of that, right? Give ourselves a break, keep ourselves motivated through just understanding this is kind of a pretty cool time. All right, Ray, what do we have? What are some other ways people are keeping themselves disciplined?
A lot of people are saying in a variety of platforms, but write it down. Write it down, whether they're using an online tracking system, whether they're using call logs or activity logs or journals to capture their accomplishments for the day. So a lot of people are doing exactly what we would recommend, and that's write it down. And then when you turn and look at all the things that you were able to accomplish. And I mentioned earlier in a chat, you know, my idea of work-life balance is accomplishment and enjoyment. And so I think we need to find ways to accomplish and enjoy at work and accomplish and enjoy at life. And so as long as we can keep those in balance, we should be moving forward. So now people are on to the other benefits that they're agreeing with, and talking about the commute and talking about meetings being much more effective. So again, variety of platforms and suggestions out there for how to keep track and how to stay disciplined.
Excellent. Thank you guys for such a hearty chat conversation. That really does make a difference in these webinars. Understand at the end of the day, I hate to use the same slogan everyone's marketing right now, but we are in this together, right? Go back to what is your organization's mission, vision, and values? What are you trying to accomplish in alignment with those? All right, how does your work help your organization accomplish their goals? What are the expectations? If you haven't created them with your supervisor, then by all means, please spend time today or this week getting those expectations defined. And what do you need to start doing, stop doing, or continue doing? All right, take some time just to think about it. Understand that your self-control is strength, right? Self-control, especially during this time, is strength, right? To be able to master calmness, all right, being able to take time where your mood isn't shifting based off of the actions of others. You will get to control the direction of your life. So we don't have to let our emotions right now, our lack of productivity right now, overpower our own intelligence. We get to take control of that. And so I hope, leaving you with that, all right, I hope that you found some information throughout this webinar useful. Again, we have those upcoming sessions, April 28th, and then our EQ session coming up. If you're interested in the April, that should say 28th, my apologies, the April 28th session of Resiliency in the Face of Setbacks, you can scan the QR code now. It is available there on your screen, and I just want to thank you all so very much for taking the time to spend with us over this morning time. Thank you all.
All right, I did have a question in the chat. Somebody wanted to know if this webinar would be available to others, and yes, we will be posting the link to it on our website. So if you go or direct others to go to Missouri Training Institute's website, you'll be able to link all of our webinars or share all of our webinars that we've done up to this point. So hope to see you April 28th, and I'll be doing that session on resiliency in the face of setbacks. Thanks for joining us today.